Greetings, Small Gardens, reporting in for this Tuesday day. How's everybody doing? Um, Today we will be talking about historical things again, as always. Historical Tuesdays, Poly Mondays. Tomorrow will be Contemporary Wednesdays. But in today's talk, I will be talking about the historical significance of electricity. And what I'm going to really be getting into is how electricity really has um, essentially it was the mover and shaker of the contemporary period that we live in today. And I'm going to start. I'm going to start essentially with you know, the first attempts at energy conversion started in the industrial revolution, where people were the human factor was becoming obsolete in some instances because as the world was growing, you know, demand for products wasn't keeping up with supply. So in order to meet these supplies, they needed a more efficient process. And this it like don't get it wrong, it wasn't there was always a mechanical skeleton first before any electrical technology was present. Most of the things that we have today was always mechanical in terms of its blueprint origins. There was never a you know do it by hand and then all of a sudden we got technology. It didn't work like that. What you need to understand is that technology wasn't necessarily a electricity, excuse me, wasn't a it wasn't a miracle, it wasn't an invention per se as it has been uh essentially marketed as. It was a addition to an already built system, kind of like updating a house essentially. Which is funny because that's exactly what happened with electricity. They used it to update houses. But you know, electricity was the person behind the person because you can always get a person or an animal to do stuff, but there was things such as transportation that was probably the easiest way they got this started, that made the need for electricity important. However, like I said, there was always a mechanical operation first. So the mechanical operation for um, um, transportation started out with beasts of burden horses, and then it moved up to combustion. We never really left combustion. However, if you notice, your car does require an electrical battery nowadays to supplement its efficiency. And as that just goes right back to what I was just saying, that electricity was essentially an upgrade to an already invented system. So once we get to we go from combustion trains to the heavy rail as we know it today, you know, that really opened the door for what you would call electronics, in the sense that now there is an a system in which you can move things with little to no effort. And that I feel like that mindset is what inspired everything that we have today in terms of modern convenience, because electricity in its simplest form was work converted into whatever you needed to do. And you know, that can sound stupid, that you would call something that isn't as physical as a hand or an object work, but that's essentially what electricity is. It was the purest form of work. It was like electricity was like, if you could isolate, um if energy was a drug, electricity is the pill. And once people figured that out, it was over after that. That's it. Everything got hit by electricity. There was no stopping it. There was, once you figured out how easy electricity made moving things, it just became like magic. To be honest with you. And I feel like there will never be a more significant, and not an invention, a more significant I can't even call it a concept, because it's so involved in today's life that you can't even call it a concept. There will be no there is not a more significant how could you say people found electricity? They didn't find it. They understood what it was before they even knew how to utilize it. Resource, there we go. It was a resource that people discovered and learned how to utilize and manipulate. And I feel like, electricity was just a precursor to the idea that physics can necessarily be bent to whatever you want it to do. And that can sound like a radical suggestion, because you can't just be like, space move, object stop, air move, like you know what I mean. You can't just command things at will. There is a specific logic to how all of this is maneuvered. But what I'm trying to say is that electricity is a blueprint for understanding how energy can be harnessed to your advantage. And it has inspired a lot of things in terms of manufacturing, in terms of you know essentially using resources to um create more resources. And that type of system, you just can't beat it. So people can often find themselves looking at the wrong face of the future, because every time people talk about the future, they talk about technology this, technology that. When people don't understand that there is no technology, there's electricity. If there was no electricity, we all still be pushing rocks right now. And that's just the truth of the fact of the matter. And I don't mean to blow electricity out of proportion like this, like, because it's not even a real. You can't touch it. It's not safe to touch it. It's not safe to observe it. Well, you can observe its effects, but you can't observe. It's not safe to observe pure electricity. But you have to. I can't say that I don't find myself amazed by uh its its theory. And the theory is that energy does exist. electricity was the purest and simplest form that energy as something that has its own will to do something exists. And I feel like that's what society, humanity really needed as a evidence of existence. Because, people, you could ask all the questions in the world, but until the world gives you an answer, the world is essentially useless to people. And I feel like that was a mentality at some point or another that, I'm pretty sure people felt like the world wasn't worth nothing because, you know, there was no evidence that there is something that exists that mimics the human condition. And I say the human condition in the sense that there is something that can bring life to stuff, bring features to it that wouldn't exist without it. So it's kind of, fitting that electricity fits this. But, the nature of electricity within itself is a point of intense discussion because essentially anything can generate electricity. However, how you are able to harness this is the problem. Most physical, you know, organic things aren't going to be able to manipulate electricity like a machine will. A machine can feed off of electricity, can tell electricity when to stop or to tell it to change its direction, or you know what I mean? Like, people are limited by something that they can generate but they can't necessarily directly control. And I feel like that's kind of, that's kind of cool in a way because electricity is it's not a phenomenon because it occurs so consistently that you couldn't even say that is I can't even say that it is a it makes me look at the world differently because, when you think about ghosts or apparitions or whatever superstition may move you to believe that there is something out there that you do not understand, you have to also look at what you should understand, what you don't, such as, tornadoes or tidal waves or thunderstorms, or like what you would characterize as phenomena does not necessarily fit into electricity's slot because electricity proved that it is not limited to any one thing, such as, coal or gas, petroleum, as they would call it, or crude gas, whatever the economic guys are talking about every day on the CNN channel. But you know, it's I feel like it is the life, the soul, like a lot of philosophers and stuff talked about the soul existing in a human that we can't find, and yet with little to no effort we've already found out there is a soul in objects, and and it's already been created and integrated into society with little to no backlash. Like when electricity came around, nobody was talking about witches, witchcraft. Um, you know, nobody felt that 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 natural human nature opposition is something which makes you feel like you are smaller than it, because I feel like there was a synergy to it that people needed to understand. Because when you see something powered by electricity move on its own or with your assistance, it's like it's like the perfect Frankenstein. It's like the reanimator that people have been trying to get to since chemists started talking about the philosopher's stone and the divine elixir and all this other stuff that people with imagination can think of, but no real life experience to talk about. And what electricity is proving, has proved, is that life is ordered, life is dictated by a certain structure, life is not a mistake. Electricity proves that everything that exists is following a specific instruction, whether that instruction is to move or to not to move, to be a certain color or to not be a certain color, to be a certain height or to not be a certain height. Everything is, you know, orchestrated is what I'm trying to say. And I feel like I find it ironic that a resource, because we can't even call it a science. A science is observation of something that you manipulate. Electricity doesn't need to be manipulated to exist. It's only manipulated to become more useful. So I find it ironic that a resource, a naturally occurring resource, I say naturally occurring because, like I said, anything can generate electricity. The problem is, you know, when you generate it, can you generate it enough to generate other resources? That's a problem. And, you know, once you've established that electricity can essentially tell things what to do, it can be easy to start jumping to conclusions and saying that, there may possibly be other things that can tell things what to do. Well, we've already isolated fire can do this too. That was the easy one, you know. But when you see how structured electricity does it, it makes fire seem like the like it almost seems like fire was the tutorial, and now we have taken a step further, reaching the next level. No video game analogy. I'm talking about hierarchy here, and what I'm moving towards is that electricity is a hierarchy resource that is one step closer to what you would call a perfect resource, a resource that does not require any effort to self-generate. And the greatest indication of this is the sun. People will forever argue about why the sun exists, how it exists, you know, what could make a sun. And they're probably, these people, the physicists have put forth their theories, have put forth their their observations on it. But if you ask them to make a sun with these observations and theories, they're going to be no more different than the chemists back in the early 1700s who couldn't even make what is a hard fabrication for a chemist to make that isn't really a chemist. Probably plastics. And I feel like plastics to early chemists is what the sun is to us now. However, the difference is we're already one step ahead of those chemists because electricity pushed everything closer together. Ironically, I know you've been to the laundromat before. You took out that towel or that shirt, and you felt that. That's not because it like you or something. That's not a kiss. That's electricity's at its finest. Even when you purposely make a machine to do one thing, which is to use electricity to create heat, electricity is still able to find a way to, cling to you, to reach you, to show you that it exists. Electricity has a will of its own that you just have to appreciate. Every human has to appreciate electricity. And I'm not saying it as a command, I'm just saying it as a rule of thumb. No more different than the golden rule. And the reason I say that is because you could put out a fire, or you could let a fire put itself out. Electricity, if there's a will, there's a way. Electricity will always find a way to make its will known. And that is why, you have the PSC&G guys, you have the cherry picker trucks, you got this whole industry that was created, designed really to maintain and control electricity. Because it's funny how a resource is almost like a pet, almost like something alive. That's something that has to be managed, something that has to be taken care of, and something that has to be pampered really. Because I can't even tell you how much work they probably put in to maintain streetlights every night. Who knows how much work they put in to make sure that somebody doesn't plug in a microwave and die, or how much work is put in to make sure that if somebody's in their house running 50 appliances at once, that the electricity doesn't get too excited and start shooting through the house or something. Like you know what I mean? Like the care that has been put in place to manage one resource, this all important resource, is indicator of what you would call a higher purpose. And a higher purpose is basically to figure out how complicated this complicated get. And what I mean by this is fire can do so much, electricity can do just about everything. Who knows what the next thing can do? You know what I mean? Like, it's like it makes you want to stop. Like it makes you want to be like, do I still want to be curious, or do I want to quit while my chips are ahead here? Like you see what I mean? Like, I feel like whenever they find the next new resource, or whenever they figure out, if they already found it, how to control it, what will it be able to do? Because you got to take into consideration, even electricity is, you seeing a lot of the things you could do, but we'll never know everything electricity can do, because there are questions that will lead to controversial topics. Like, for example, can a person live off a battery source? Can you use electricity to essentially keep a person in a perpetual state of awakeness and stimulation and aliveness? Like, you see, there are a lot of crossover topics that electricity opens up because of its nature to stimulate things and keep them going, that is very controversial. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people, I feel it makes sense then. I've already stepped on my own words. I see why people haven't given electricity the witchcraft treatment, is because people already know, once you start indulging in acts of human mutilation, essentially, people are going to feel a sense of a helplessness, because the idea is, once you make a resource more important in human life, it's like basically saying that people are no longer useful. And I say that in the sense that electricity is scary, because it means that there are a lot of things that have not yet been tested. All of the comfortable things have been done, but it's the uncomfortable things that have not been done that leave questions to be asked. And this throws electricity into its own level of significance, because it hasn't been released what you can and can't do with electricity. The list is so long that you don't want to know, to be honest with you. And that's the problem. Electricity is a gift and a curse. It's a gift because it lends itself to everything. It's a curse because it leads to everything. And human curiosity will always be a precursor of human corruption. Meaning, as people who will always be curious about what is going on around us, electricity begs to differ that what's going on around you is not more important than what's going on in you. And that type of indifference to human sanctity, to human sacredness, is why electricity is more it's scarier than most people will ever give thought to it to. And this is not an alarmist perspective here. This is not a um supposed to be like a spooky channel or something like that. This is a real life dissection of technology, not technology, of a resource. And I do this because most people don't think that the past has already created the future, but in reality, the past has already created the future. You know, it's easy to talk about quotes and all of these book stuff, but you know, the truth is that the present is only a already pre-made bridge to the future. And I say pre-made in the sense that past habits have already been ingrained, have already been cultured, have already been uh, standardized, and it's not to your advantage to think about this, because you thinking about it doesn't change the past. The past has already happened. The past is has it does it's like they say hindsight is 2020. However, the reason why it's 2020 is because you have to realize that people in the present are not going to have anything else to work with except the past. You can't say it's we're going to theorize about the future and build the world based on theories. That's not going to work. That's no grown man adult, no grown woman adult is going to build his or her life on possibilities and hopes and dreams, especially if they don't already have precedent in the real world, which requires the past. So, you know, the reason why electricity has already decided the future is because people, I'm pretty sure whoever's the electricity was discovered a long time ago, so the people that originally found it are probably already deceased or retired. Meaning, whoever had to pick up after them is already, trying to figure out how much can I do without doing too much. And that's like that's a scary thought, because 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people was like, yo, what is wrong with the world? There's nothing to do. And now there's too much to do. And I say too much in the sense that people in the present will always like to think of themselves as more advanced than those that came before them. And in order to keep this mentality going, it is a rule, it is a courtesy to always keep advancements in humanity at a slow pace. Now, this may sound more like a theory, not a theory, a conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy. It's the truth, because even the simple thing is, we talking about this is 21st century America, and abortion is still a topic of discussion. Divorce is still a topic of discussion. Simple stuff, things that men and women have been fighting like dogs since forever, and yet these same problems keep reoccurring and coming up in the public forum. Like, you understand how it can be easy to notice that people are not as age advanced in their day-to-day basis as the society is. Society will always be 100 years ahead of the people that are growing up in it. And I say that because, taking in consideration the speed at which the 20th century collided into the 21st century, and then go back in a different phase and look at how the 19th century collided into the 20th century. The 19th to 20th century wasn't really concerned with how advanced society was going, because their idea of progression was so slow and so immature compared to our idea of progression, that you can't even say that I'm not making sense right now. If you could find somebody who was at least around close to the beginning of the 20th century and ask them, like, do you feel like things have moved a lot faster now? I'm pretty sure that they would agree. And you know, that's no disrespect to them. I'm sure as their age has taught them that society moving slow was for the best, because I swear to, like, on everything, like, I couldn't even act this out if you told me, there was another resource out there more potent than electricity that could do who knows what. You know what I mean? And I say that because the idea is that because electricity is so useful, what would I need the new one for? Scarily enough, what could somebody utilizing that new resource do to me? You get what I mean? And that's not to introduce paranoia into this. This is not about paranoia. This is more about realizing that not America, society, humanity is spinning at very paces. And I say that the earth, I want to throw the earth into your mind's eye. The earth is spinning at very paces because there are areas on the earth where things are going on that are beyond our time. And it's not a secret per se. It's not it's not one of those sore eye thoughts. It's a hard reality. And I say it's a hard reality because, if somebody told me, did you know that society could be more advanced than it is right now, I would be pretty pissed, because, it's like saying, basically, it's saying I'm too stupid to adjust to whatever society is moving towards, which, I'll never know until I'm already knee deep in it. But that's just a common a common a common strand of society to take technology and people and move them at different paces. They're still connected. It's just that they will never be parallel. They're more perpendicular. And I say perpendicular in the sense that people will meet technology at different points, but will never be on point with technology. So what that means is, technology and people are moving in a straight line, right? At certain points, probably every 100 years, And I say every 100 years as a summarization of all the accomplishments, because you know that's another point that I'm missing, that everything in the 20th century didn't happen all at once. They were a culmination of continual innovation and discovery compiled together. So, that's why I say every 100 years the world says, surprise, we're a little smarter now. Can you keep up? And that's at that point, at those 100-year marks, that's when, the people hit into technology. But technology is still way ahead. It's just that now technology is comfortable with meeting people. And, you know, this can be a very it can be a very not charming, it can be a very comforting thought to think that your children or your children's children will see a world that will make them look at you like you look at the history books. And I say comforting because it is more it is a more positive feeling to know that a ship is moving rather than to be in a state of confusion or disorientation when you can't get your bearings. And to throw that into an analogy, if society was a ship, right? But you could never come out to see what's going on, how would you know something is going on at all? And I feel like how society works this out is by essentially, you know, it hit a curve, every once in a while it hits a wave of what you would call advancement. And once you hit this wave of advancement, then people start picking up like, huh? What's going on? And even though you can't see what's going on, you know that something is going on. And that can be more comforting than not knowing anything at all. And I feel like that has happened. Just like it probably happened 100 years ago. And how this ties back into electricity is that in the 20th century, electricity was that bump that got people like, hey, what's going on here? It's different. And as we have entered the 21st century and then we're moving towards the next century, there will be a bump. Whether it is electricity's mastery or whether electricity becomes a jumping ground into another resource or to another technology is to be said. But guarantee electricity will always have a hand in the next wave. Always, always, always keep that in mind. There will never be any questions that need to be asked besides, does it run on electricity? And if they say yes, then you don't need to know anything else. And if they say no, now you need to know something else. But that's just, a a gross generalization, summarization, and whatever elseation of how electricity is moving, has moved society, and is moving society. But with everything said, I feel like electricity is still not spoken for, because it's like a um every every new resource we find is like a labyrinth that needs to be explored. The more complicated the resource, the more it needs to be explored. Fire was a simple resource to explore because, once you figured out that fire hurts, you ain't want to be bothered with it no more. Like, you already knew. That's it. I'm done. You can do whatever you want with it. Just don't make it hurt me. That's it. But, that was simple enough. So, you could see how it was really simple to, once you figured out fire and people don't mix, what can fire mix with? And then from there, the rest is history. Electricity, on the other hand, what can it mix with? You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy because you would think that, electricity has a limit. It doesn't have a limit. Once you, like, people, like, I realized that electricity may never go out of style back when we moved from a battery culture society to a rechargeable battery culture society. And the reason why I knew this, I looked at this because, okay, you figured out how to make electricity storable. That's okay. People got pissed. I know a lot of people used to bother their parents about, yo, my Game Boy ran out of batteries. My Game Boy ran out of batteries. A lot of people got tired of buying batteries. So what do? They like genies out here. They make a rechargeable battery. So I'm like, okay, that was fast. And give or take, the battery, the rechargeable battery has its limitations. I mean, you can only it only maintains its efficiency for a long time. However, it's still susceptible to damage. You could drop it and break. You can drop it and damage it. You can put it too close to a heat source and damage it. You can leave your charger on too long and damage it. You can essentially use it too much and damage it. Like, electricity is doing things that it wasn't expected to do, but that's part of the process. So, electricity is its own giant labyrinth because not only do you have to do it right, you got to do it wrong. So, we'll never know until, they sit in a laboratory all day and do the same thing that chemists did with fire, with electricity, and figure out, oh boy, now we gotta store all of this, which requires electricity. And you know, this can be this is a more of an amusing thought, because if you have to learn to not learn, if you have to learn through mistakes, because you can anticipate that your mistakes may lead to more learning, it just goes to show that, if you could group everything society's advancements, everything society has created, I feel like electricity would just be that huge ass category that just sit there at the top, and you just see this massive, almost like if you could trace your family tree back to your very first ancestors, electricity will be your very first ancestor. That is how significant it is, your very first ancestor. And you know that can be that's funny because that sound like it's pagan. Like, I know y'all heard of Thor before, and the people you way before electricity was really talked about. People used to, just make up stories like, yo, man, it's this cat with a hammer. He a god of thunder. Yeah, hit you with the hammer and shock you to death. And even before Thor, there was Zeus who said he shoot thunderbolts at cats. And just these ideas that turn into reality just goes to show that you know electricity means that there's a lot left to be discovered, and probably electricity is the key to discovering. But that's just a that's just me harping on the fact that technology, I mean electricity, I can't even I can't like I'm trying I'm doing it right. I'm not repeating electricity, but using technology is not a correct accurate term. So I'll just harp on electricity then. That electricity is the end all and be all of society. And this may be a very early statement to make. This may be a very stupid statement to make. But I feel like it has to be made because society is going to rely on its past accomplishments to make future accomplishments. And its greatest accomplishment this far, in my opinion, has been electricity and always will be. Because what you discover through electricity will only be a testament to electricity. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for my supporters who I will begin to shout out now. Thank you to Juanita Hooper, Shamik Cooper, Skinner, Shamik Skinner, Juanita Hooper. I was trying to rhyme. My anonymous patrons, 1, 2, and 3. And I will begin to work on more. Believe it or not. Believe it or not, I am working on more. It may not sound significant now, but before I was talking to no supporters, and now I'm talking to supporters. So I have moved up like a Jefferson. Yes, I am very happy about that. You will not catch me on that. But I will make sure to reach out to my supporters as much as I can. I do this for you. I do this for those of you that don't know that you're a supporter. But this is it's not going to stop. It's not going to be a conditional thing. This will always. I've already received my joke, a little joke at the end that I needed to keep going. So we're gonna keep going, and part of this is to pick up more clout, is to pick up more speed, is to pick up. I'm trying to move. Like, I'm looking at this like space. I'm not going to slow down. I'm gonna get faster. So that's all on that. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.